Brooklyn Independent Television.
I moved to New York and I was living in Tribeca right near Soho. That's where the art world was. And then a lot of money came in. I mean, a lot of money came in. But there are a lot of artists who've been pushed into Brooklyn, and I had a studio that was sort of on the border between Clinton Hill and Bed-Stuy. And now it is kind of the mega center of the US art world, and there are artists scattered throughout all parts of Brooklyn. I really think that art is like any other form of human communication, and it's meant to be a dialogue of some sort, either with one other person or with billions of people.
You have money to burn, sir? Money to burn!
I make revolutionary art to propel history forward. That's the thing that is the core of my work.
As far as I'm concerned, you're being disorderly.
I'm interested in the idea of wandering and exploring, and that sense of, you know, what you do in your everyday and how you kind of invent the space around you. So basically I took all the businesses from the phone book that start with the word star, and I just, you know, it started off as an experiment. I just wanted to see what happened when I mapped them out in Brooklyn. And there are all these constellations of businesses like Star Nails and Star Deli and Star Sewer Services. A lot of my work connects to ways of exploring urban space and walking around, noticing things, and then sort of developing a piece around them.
I have been influenced by the history of science and scientific discovery for many years. The history of art and the history of science are these parallel tracks that are really the history of ideas and the history of innovation. I'm not interested in the science of gadgetry. I'm interested in the culture of science. Let's see, this is the one that's going to be in the show at the Rotunda Gallery.
When I realized that it was the 30th anniversary of BRIC's contemporary art program and BRIC Rotunda Gallery, I decided that we should commemorate that fact. We are the oldest continuously operating contemporary art space in the borough, so it seemed very fitting that we take a look back. And we actually started by making a list of every artist who had ever shown here. And it turned out that it's about 1,500 artists. We were looking to have a site-specific installation as part of this exhibition. And Jackie Chang's installation will be on the storefront at BRIC Rotunda Gallery.
The piece will be a window adhesive, and it plays with the word object. It comments on the evolution of an object from an ordinary, everyday item to maybe being considered, you know, art. But I showed at the gallery in 1993, and living in Brooklyn, it's made me decide to make work directly accessible to a really wide audience outside of a gallery space. So over the last 15 years, I've only made work that was visible to the general public. So for me, this show is really kind of a coming home.
You know, it shows that we're just part of this very large continuum. The New York art world has been around for a long time. And, you know, we've had a very active role in the last 30 years, and we've seen so much change.
I became the director of the Rotunda Gallery in August of 1981. It was the Rotunda of Borough Hall, so we called it the Rotunda Gallery. And I was learning by the seat of my pants. So I just started doing a lot of studio visits. I needed to familiarize myself with the Brooklyn arts community to begin to curate exhibitions. I'd take the subway, and I had no idea what I would find when I walked up those steps. It was an amazing education in the variety and the hugeness of this borough.
BRIC not only presents contemporary art, but provides platforms for emerging artists and opportunities for the public to have a real interactive dialogue with our exhibitions. One of the initiatives we're really proud of is our artist registry.
I put some work in their registry, and then it was, it was great as a result of that. They asked me to do a studio visit and invited me to be in the show A Wrinkle in Time. And the piece that was shown was actually collaged images of all these cracks in the sidewalk. So this is a book that that's related to the piece that I showed at Rotunda originally the first time. It's a similar kind of idea of constructing this continuous crack from all these images of different cracks in the sidewalk that I collected actually all over Brooklyn. So the crack is continuous, so you flip through and you just always kind of end up in the same place. I've been paying a lot of attention to the surface of the street, which actually relates to the piece that I'm showing in the 30th anniversary exhibition at Rotunda. This piece is called Big Bang, and it's a reenactment of the birth, life, and death of the universe with beer bottles. I flipped the video camera upside down and sort of at this oblique angle to the street, so it almost looked like you could be looking up at the sky. And then I reenacted the Big Bang by smashing beer bottles onto the street and then sweeping it up.
In this show, I've been invited to show a piece called the Williamsburg Timeline Drawing, and it's kind of a chronology of the Williamsburg art scene. But this was done by interviewing everyone that was around. And what it is really is just locating in time of when people came, where they came from, when they moved in, where their studios were, what shows happened, various events, starting with the very late 70s when the earliest person who called themselves an artist that I could actually interview got their loft. This was fairly new for me to try this particular abstraction of time where it's actually marked off in a grid. I'd used diagrams and charts before, but not too much. It wasn't really my main kind of work. My main kind of work was performance kind of stuff. So I didn't move out till either the end of '93 or the beginning of '94. And by that time, the BRIC Gallery opened that year. And so BRIC Gallery existed for like 5 years before Williamsburg got to that place where we could insist that Manhattan wasn't the complete scene anymore, that you had to come over and see something that was going on in Brooklyn.
I work in a lot of different media. In this show I have photography, but I don't think there's any one medium that's best for any one idea. This image is an image called Eric. 1983 to 1986, I was hanging out on the dance floors of the hardcore punk rock scene in Chicago, and I was interested in my friends that were on the dance floor. And so this work was sort of capturing kind of the energy of a time when people felt very, on the edge. The edginess that gave rise to the East Village scene, that sort of life a little bit on the edge of existence, but still having time to make the art and to be part of a vibrant scene of people doing that, that is really critical. My work on a few different occasions has become like the center of controversy, and the first time that happened, this law got passed which would have criminalized one particular form of political dissent. It would have made it illegal to criticize the American flag by, burning it, by spitting on it, by using it in artwork. And by extension, it's not that far away from saying people couldn't criticize the government. And so when they passed the law, it actually specifically mentioned an artwork of mine called What's the Proper Way to Display a U.S. Flag? And so I and others defied this law, and it became a Supreme Court case, which resulted in a sort of landmark free speech decision. It taught me about the real power of art and trying to find new ways to talk about the ideas. It enables people to imagine and dream how the world could be radically different and far better.
When I make a work that has to do with the history of science, there's usually some either character or some event that I kind of use as my point of departure. So I invented the 3 lost notebooks of Charles Darwin. And for each of those themes that the notebooks addressed, I made 3 of these magic lantern sculptures. So each one has a video player in them. One is called The Memories of the Stones, one is called The Awareness of the Cells, and the one in the exhibition at the Rotunda is The Dreams of the Plants. And I first became interested in what I call our atomic age legacy and how that has affected human health, human life, and the environment. And so I've been buying old uranium glass, which glows bright yellow-green under ultraviolet light. And I want to build an installation of a suspended glass table with dozens of place settings and light the room with ultraviolet light. So these vessels glow this earthly, kind of ghostly glow. And when a high-intensity LED is dropped inside, you get this amazing sort of shadow pattern from the glass, which I thought was an interesting metaphor for radioactivity as an invisible force. And so you'll get those kinds of shadows on the floor underneath this suspended table. I've shown at the Rotunda numerous times over the past 20-some years, and it really is a place that has brought the arts community of Brooklyn together.
If it wasn't here, it would actually be a big deal, I think. But I do know that we, the artists, feel particularly reassured by the fact that this place is here.
I mean, I think that they offer a lot to artists, whether it's doing studio visits or an opportunity to show your work and also just to talk a little bit about the work. And I think, you know, it makes you as an artist feel like, oh, your work is like being valued and appreciated.
Showing is good all the time, and you know, here is that people coming together to show work where you know, we make it. And then you see a lot of friends because, you know, Brooklyn has kind of the highest concentration of artists anywhere in the country. And so showing here is important to promote the history of an important space in Brooklyn, and I think in the art scene in America overall.
Opening night is always exciting, but I think that this one will be especially important for all of us because the staff has worked really for months and months. And it means a lot to me because I have been so devoted to helping the careers of younger artists. And I think that this show reflects the way that this space has done that for 30 years. It really has been a platform for younger artists in the borough.
An opening is a time where we gather together and we celebrate that it's public. This is the public face of being an artist.
Follow us on Twitter at BK Independent TV.